Welcome to the Intentional Living with Emlah podcast. This is our second episode, and I am honored to be your host. I'm Dr. Emlah Tubuo, and today we will be doing a deep dive into the 4 pillars of intentional living. The 4 pillars of intentional living. Again, I want you to visualize a table. Visualize a table with 4 legs. Those legs, in our mind, will represent the pillars of intentional living. Nutrition, movement, inner alignment, and positive social connections. Today I want to take a minute and just go behind the why behind those pillars. Because in this intentional living journey, we need to figure out some steps that's going to take us through. So the first step will be talking about nutrition as our first pillar. Hippocrates said, "Let food be thy medicine, and let medicine be thy food." Yet, 70% of the food we put on our plates in the US is highly processed and filled with added sugars. This is what drives inflammation, friends. And I share with my clients every day that inflammation is the root of all evil when it comes to chronic disease. Inflammation is the major driver of the fastest growing chronic diseases. Diabetes type 2, take for example. In 1960, 1 in 100 people had type 2 diabetes. Fast forward to 2021, 1 in 10 people have type 2 diabetes. This, my friends, is with all the knowledge that we have. We have peer-reviewed articles. We have all the metformin we can prescribe and dispense in the pharmacy. We have all the insulin. We have all the GLP-1s. But yet, 1 in 10 people now have type 2 diabetes, as opposed to 1 in 100 people in 1960. We're trending the wrong direction, friends. If you stop and ponder, if we adjust how we eat, if we start eating intentionally, we can reverse type 2 diabetes. We can be able to help ourselves reverse these chronic diseases. Fueling your body with nutrient-dense food doesn't have to be complicated. I feel like we've made it as a country super complicated. You don't have to be counting every single thing and counting all the calories and counting all the macronutrients and everything. We just want to prevent chronic diseases. We want to improve energy production. We want to promote longevity and quality of life. Those are the 3 optimal goals of putting nutrient-dense food on your plate. And how are we going to do this in a very simplistic way? What we're going to do is we're going to put food on our plate that our grandmother can recognize. We're going to put food on our plate that is colorful enough. Put food on our plate that comes from the garden. Put food on our plate that comes from the farm. Intentional living and focusing on our first pillar of nutrition is what we'll be doing when we'll invite guests, we'll invite nutritionists, we'll invite people who have figured out how to make this practical and sustainable. When we invite these people onto the show, we would ask them the questions. How can we do this on a day-to-day basis? How can we make it practical? How can we make it such a way that my picky 15-year-old son can put nutrient-dense food on his plate? What supplements are we going to use in addition to? Filling in those gaps. When we think of supplements, I want us to think of in addition to nutrient-dense foods for that goal of preventing chronic disease, improving energy production, and promoting longevity to lead that intentional life. Optimal health is impossible without our second pillar, movement. You know, I send a care package to my aunt every month, and when I send her her bag of supplements for the month, I write the same note with her every month. I send this note to her and I say, "Auntie, this is a complete waste of my time, energy, resources if you don't get your butt off the couch and move." You know, and it doesn't have to be a 5K. It doesn't have to be an hour at a fancy gym. I tell her, "Auntie, move your body with intention." And that's my goal for you guys today. I want to remind us to move our body with intention and gratitude. That is intentional living, friends. A 10-minute brisk walk enhances cognitive function. Think about that. This happens by improving neurotransmitter secretion. And when you think about those neurotransmitters, we think about dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. When these are produced in your body because of that 10-minute brisk walk, it improves mood, it enhances goal-oriented behavior, And it helps us give a sense of greater balance. Who doesn't want that? Our body was designed to move. Our brain depends on it. That, my friends, is intentional living. When you move your body, a protein gets produced in your brain. It's called BDNF. It's brain-derived neurotrophic factor. This protein enhances memory, it increases learning, and increases mental clarity. Those are all things that we all want. Correct me if I'm wrong. So movement is not just for the fitness. Movement is not just to reduce insulin resistance, even though those are optimally important. It's about chemistry, connection, clarity. Movement primes your brain for deeper connections. Movement makes you have a sharper focus and allowing you to live a healthier life. When you decide, oh, I don't feel like going to the gym today, and then you get your butt off and you figure it out and you finally pull yourself and go to the gym. When you're halfway done or when you're done, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm glad I came. I'm really happy that I actually was able to move my body today, because when you move your body, you live with greater intention and alignment. And we shift from autopilot to aligned. The magic of true living happens when mind, body, and spirit align. Inner alignment is our third pillar. As a society, we have done a lot to neglect inner alignment. We have not placed emphasis on inner alignment, but our attitudes and our actions depend on inner alignment. When you meet somebody and they just have a sense of calm around them, you feel better around those people who have a strong inner alignment. My goal with this pillar of inner alignment is to help you examine yourself from the inside out. You know, several years of my life were dedicated to living the life that other people expected of me, yielding to societal expectations, yielding to those habits that, are the habits of, oh, she's a pharmacist, she's a mom of 3, or she's a business owner, I have to do this because this is what the society expects. But what does Emlah really want? As you're listening right now, I want you to take a minute and pause. What do you really want in your life? Are you aligned from the inside out? Or are you living the life that your family members, your in-laws, your co-workers, your colleagues, your community members expect from you? There are members of your community who never think that you have donated enough of your time or your financial resources because they expect you to do all the things that they need you to do. Think about yourself. You will only be able to take care of me once you're done taking care of yourself. So I say embrace your unique journey on this inner alignment pillar. When you're clear on your own personal values and your purpose, decision fatigue reduces. You stop chasing external validation and you take steps like meditation, gratitude, deep breathing, gratitude journaling, which I do with my daughter consistently every single day. And that's one of my greatest inner alignment strengths, because when you do this, they increase the gray matter density in your brain and therefore increasing emotional regulation. And emotional regulation is something that we cannot live without. This allows you to respond to life with intention rather than reacting on autopilot, because nobody wants to be on autopilot. You want to be practical about your steps. You want to be inner aligned so that outside will be fulfilled. That is our third pillar. Our fourth and final pillar is positive social connections. I'd be lying if I didn't say this was my favorite pillar. We are social beings. We crave connection and belonging. So the Harvard University's 85-year-long study on happiness showed that the strongest predictor of a long, healthy life is the value of our relationships. It wasn't riches, it wasn't career status, it was the quality of our relationships. So people with deeper social connections have greater fulfillment in life. Remember, fulfilled life, steps of intentional living, moving up to that fulfilled life. So intentional living is not just about what you do. It's about who you do it with. That's why on this podcast, we will invite people who are practicing these values, who will help us on this journey to figure out who you want to spend your time with. The first time my grandfather got lost, when he had dementia, a search team was deployed. And I had not connected the dots. But the second time, when he got lost and people went out looking for him. And he passed away from Alzheimer's. I read a statistic that said chronic loneliness and social isolation can increase the risk of developing dementia by 50% in older adults. Think about that number. This is just from chronic loneliness and social isolation. So find your people. Find your village. Find people who bring out the best in you. Evaluate the culture around you. Disconnect from distractions that no longer serve your purpose. Identify people who are living out your values already. Hang out with those people. Spend time with those people. Study their habits. Prioritize meaningful relationships. Because with those meaningful relationships, life will be more aligned. We'll have people on this podcast, or the guests that we'll have on this podcast for our positive social connections are people that I have identified, and I'm relying on you. As you subscribe to this podcast, you don't miss an episode. You share with friends who bring that smile to your face and to your heart. And you tell me who you think I should have on this podcast, who brings that positive social connection out for you. Let's prioritize connection over consumption, my friends. So after listening to those 4 pillars of intentional living, the goal is to switch from autopilot to aligned. Because if we just move through life unconsciously, we wake up one day feeling disconnected, depleted, and unfulfilled. So the shift from autopilot to aligned isn't about making big drastic changes. It's about making small consistent changes in the direction of our values and goals every single day. And that's why on this podcast every week, as you tune in, we will be here to help you make sure that these habits are not only formed, but they become the foundation of a vibrant, purposeful life. Intentional living does not mean perfection, my friends. It means presence. It means progression. It's about showing up and making conscious, consistent choices and designing a life that feels good on the inside, not just one that looks good from the outside in. So the greatest gift you can give yourself is to remind yourself of this. That's why I want you to subscribe to this podcast, give us a review, and share it with people who are your positive social connection heroes. Be kind to your body.